A journalist in Dallas was fired this month after she referred to the city's mayor as bruh in a tweet. At least that is the reason she was given for why she was let go from the local news outlet. But as it turns out, there might be a different reason because she was involved in a labor effort that probably did not bode well for the corporate offices for this company. So this is the Dallas Morning News. Again, it's in Dallas, it's in the name. And the reporter is Meghan Mangrum. And unfortunately, she's looking for a job today because she was let go. So let's get to the beginning of the story and explain what happened. It all started on February 11th when Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson decided to go after local media and criticize them for the way they were covering crime. He argued that they were focusing too much on crime when in reality, crime had gone down in Dallas. So let's go to his tweet. He writes, "Our local media have no interest in reporting on this data, which is why you haven't heard about it. But you better believe if Dallas was leading the nation in violent crime increases, you'd be hearing about it daily. It's sad, really. Kudos to Dallas PD and our residents." And let's keep that up for a minute because I just want to note that New York, Los Angeles, we're not winning with them. Same with Chicago. I mean, it's all red because you see increases in murders, rapes, robberies, aggravated assault. But to the mayor's point, if you look at Dallas, it's in the green. They're doing pretty well when it comes to violent crime. So violent crime has in fact decreased in Dallas based on the numbers that he's sharing in that graphic. Now,
let me just say one quick thing about this.
Sure.
So far, the mayor hasn't done anything wrong. Right. He's bragging about how well his administration is doing, and he's not wrong that oftentimes bad news gets covered way more than good news.
Exactly.
And he's like, look at our good stats. He's gonna lose this later, but so far so good.
Exactly, and when it comes to local news especially, the whole ideology of if it bleeds, it leads is certainly dominant. Like you can see it, right? Now, with that said, Mangrum decides to respond to the tweet, and that is where she uses the word bruh. Okay, so let's go to that. Bruh, national news is always going to chase the trend, cultivate relationships with quality local news partnerships. And when she tweeted that, she also provided examples of the reporting they had done that did draw attention to the decreases in crime, right? Because she wanted to make a point, and she also wanted to defend her newsroom and her colleagues. Well, he didn't like that. We'll get to what he said in just a moment, but she later told Dallas Magazine, which was covering the story, "Standing up for my colleagues and the work that we do when I know we're doing good and honest work is something I pride myself on and something that I look for in my colleagues and in my workplace as well." Nonetheless, the mayor and his staff apparently didn't take too kindly to the fact that she used the word bruh. And here is how he responded to her: "Bruh, have we met?" And then he also wrote, "Gotta love when folks let their inherent bias show. I get to be addressed as bruh by someone who writes for my daily local paper whom I've never met."
That's where he lost me. Yeah, so her response was perfectly fine. She's pointing out the good work that they're doing, and she's doing it in a fun, irreverent way. His first response is fine. "I never met you, okay, so you're not my bruh." No problem with that. Wait, why are we getting identity issues on bruh though? Like all of a sudden this story took a turn.
Yeah.
And it's gonna take a couple more disastrous turns in a second. But bruh is not 1% racial.
Let me be upfront about my bias because I have a bias when it comes to this specific story actually. For people who watch the show regularly, you'll probably notice that I use the word homeboy a lot, and I use it in reference to politicians of every background imaginable. I've used it in response to Biden, I've used it in response to a bunch of different people, right? The one time I used it in regard to someone in a story we were doing who is black, I got a tweet about how I'm racist for using the word homeboy.
But to be fair to that person, they might not have ever seen you use homeboy in all other contexts.
But when was homeboy specifically a word used in reference to black people? Never.
Well, I don't know that's less true than bruh, okay? But overall, I've seen you call Chuck Grassley homeboy.
That's right.
And Chuck Grassley ain't nobody's homeboy. Okay, so you use that all the time.
Yeah.
And so people are too ready to pounce, right? Okay, I
Assume
saw
the worst.
Yeah, I saw one thing once that could go either way, or that 90% of the time goes the right way, not even the wrong way. No, good enough, time to attack, right? And so in this case, bros, look, my son and I say bro to each other all the time. I'm pretty sure we're not racist against one another, okay? And so like anytime my wife says anything cutting about me, like, you could have gotten the food earlier or something, Pro will be in the background going, bruh.
Okay, so
it's not, so let it go.
So after that happened, Mangrum, the reporter, got an email from an editor, and the editor looped in an HR representative and asked to meet. The HR representative asked to meet with the reporter Mangrum, with the executive editor Catrice Hardy. Okay,
you're in trouble.
Yeah. So here's what happened during the meeting. According to Mangrum, Hardy, who is black, asked her if she would have used the word bruh if the mayor were white. Mangrum, who is white, said yes. Her Twitter feed is littered with the word bruh directed at all sorts of accounts, including those belonging to hockey fans and the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife. And she later said this, quote, "I would never tell a person of color, oh, it wasn't racist, you shouldn't feel that way." Okay, I will. That wasn't racist, he shouldn't have felt that way. Sorry, that whole thing about like, oh, you're not a person of color, so you don't get to have a say in this conversation, I'm not buying it. Bruh is not a racist word, period. But let me continue with what she said. "But I know my intent, and it was not at all about race. I use that word with my friends, and when I tweet about hockey, it's just part of my vernacular. I grew up in Central Florida, and I'm a millennial." There's an extra layer to this story though, and I think the extra layer indicates why she was really fired. We'll get to that in a moment, but Cenk, thoughts?
Yeah, so I think there's two real reasons she was fired. The one that Anna's about to tell you, which is probably the majority reason. But another reason I think that it went in this direction is because you're not allowed to challenge the powerful. And so she misunderstood her job. So generally speaking, journalism in this country has been perverted so that it's just the marketing arm of corporate rule. So if anyone is powerful and they complain about your coverage, you're gonna be in a world of trouble. And if you work in a mainstream media organization, you know I'm telling the truth. That you have to tread very, very lightly when it's someone who's powerful and can give you blowback.
I love that you brought that up because let's remember what the power dynamics are in this story. We're talking about the mayor of the town, of the city of Dallas. The mayor, very powerful position, versus a local news reporter. So I think that's a relevant part of the story because as he's pretending to be aggrieved by the word bruh, do you not understand what the power dynamic is here?
Yeah, well, I think that he does, and he's taking advantage of that power dynamic.
Yeah, he's weaponizing racism to go after this local news reporter who provided evidence of her paper covering the story the way that he wants reporters to cover the story.
Yeah, what she said was not even against them.
No.
Okay, so I guess if you're thin-skinned, you could perceive it that way, but the reporters are supposed to challenge the powerful. I know that we've lost sight of that, and they almost never do it anymore, but you get fired because you tweaked someone in power by calling them bruh. And guys, here, I won't speak for Anna, but we largely agree on most things. I'd be surprised if Mayor Johnson's policies weren't aligned with ours. We probably agree with him on policy, right? But I don't know, and it's sight unseen, but he's a Democratic mayor of a major city, more likely to be in our direction, right? But that doesn't mean that you need to pull this card and get her fired because she said bruh.
Totally,
Okay, but now the more important reason.
So this is why I think she was really fired, okay? The morning following the meeting that she had with the executive editor, Mangrum helped organize and participated in a union protest in front of the News's downtown headquarters. The Dallas News Guild has wrangled with management over a host of issues, including equal pay for the staff of Al Dia. The union found that some of the staff at the Spanish language publication were earning half of what their peers with similar experience were earning at the News. And by the way, so she takes part in that, and later that day she's fired. She was told that she'd violated the paper's social media policy, though, interesting, they didn't specify what part of the policy she actually broke. Her union did end up filing a complaint on her behalf with the National Labor Relations Board, and I really do hope they come through for her. And by the way, I should clarify this because we don't know for sure, we don't know at all actually, whether the mayor had tried to get her fired. The mayor complained clearly, publicly, but we don't know if he reached out to her employer to try to get her fired.
Yeah, that is an awfully large coincidence in a series of coincidences where people talk about unions and all of a sudden find themselves fired, right? One off, you never know. And in this case, it's not like the Starbucks case where it's an Amazon where there's a series of firings of anyone who mentions a union, right? So it's possible that she got fired because she insulted someone powerful, which would be at least equally damning of the
I totally agree.
Of the paper, right? But there is no good reason to fire her, and so either way, it does not speak well of that publication.
So she has filed a Freedom of Information request to figure out, whether there was any communication with the mayor to try to get her fired. But for now, she is looking for a job. She had to move back to Florida. She's living with her parents until she can find work. And it's just incredibly sad that this happened to her and she did nothing wrong.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.